Let us begin. They found the hands of Jesus in the garden where he lay. They led him through the streets in shame. They sat among the Savior, so pure and free from sin. They said, "Crucify him, he's to blame." Upon his precious head they placed a crown of thorns. They laughed and said, "Behold the King." They struck him and they cursed him and mocked his holy name. Oh, he suffered everything. When they nailed him to the cross, his mother stood nearby. He said, "Woman, behold thy son." He cried, "I thirst for water," but they gave him none to drink. And the sinful work of man was done. To the howling mob he yielded, he did not for mercy cry. The cross of shame he took alone. And when he cried, "It's finished," he gave himself to die. Salvation's wondrous plan was done. He could have called 10,000 angels, destroy the world, and set him free. He could have called 10,000 angels, but he died alone for you and me.
Morning. Some of you may know or may not know Jim Walker currently teaches the middle schoolers Bible class on Sunday morning. And Tracy usually backs him up. But recently Jim's schedule has been such that he's finding himself traveling on Sundays more. So he asked if I could corrupt the minds of our youth or teach the class. And I'm not sure why he did it, but I said, sure, I'd love to jump in. And let me just stop for a minute and say, if you haven't had the chance to meet Abby or Tori or Noah, I highly encourage you to have a conversation with these guys. They absolutely blow my mind. They're articulate, smart, curious, and they should make their parents very proud because they're just three amazing kids. And so when Jim asked me if I could teach the class, I immediately panicked because I knew they were going to ask hard questions. So I decided to circumvent the whole thing, and I created a whole lesson series around what I call dumb Dan questions. Now, when I was 12 years old, the only Anybody under the age of 40, don't worry about it. I'll explain that later. But I also had questions, just dumb questions, like, why do we sing in church? Or, why are there different kinds of churches? Or this morning we talked about, where did the Bible come from and how did we end up with the 66 books we have? Just questions that sometimes we take for granted or we're curious about. Like, for example, what does this thing say, do this in remembrance of me? And I'm pretty confident that these are the exact same chrome trays I grew up with 40 years ago with the little cups of grape juice and the cracker. Where did all this come from? Why did we do this? And why did it say, do this in remembrance of me? And so, I don't mean to bore you with a Bible class. You've already been to Bible class, but just to give you a little bit of context, the way my mind works, that basically what happened was, as many of you know, the Israelites were enslaved to the Egyptians, right? We kind of know that story. And basically God said, Moses, go tell Pharaoh to free his people, that they don't need to be slaves anymore. So Moses goes and Pharaoh says, no, I like having my slaves. Sorry to paraphrase, but this is how I teach class too, just to give you a sense of what's going on. He said, no, I want to keep my slaves. So what does God do? He starts hitting them with plagues, right? He sends locusts. He sends frogs. He turns the water into blood. And basically, Pharaoh just kind of goes, no, I'm good. I want to keep my slaves. So finally, God says, listen, we're going to take the firstborn of every child, of every animal in this kingdom, and what you need to do, Moses, for you and your people, is you're going to mark your doors with the blood of a lamb. And basically, when I come down, I will pass over those doors. So thus, the word Passover was created. Now, immediately after that, in Exodus, what's kind of interesting, and I didn't know this, was that he institutes the Feast of the Unleavened Bread. Before he ever does this, he says to remember this, you're going to come together, you're going to have the unleavened bread, and you're going to remember me passing over. Okay? History lesson over. So what happens? Something I always forget is Jesus and his apostles were Jewish, right? So Passover's coming up. What happens? The apostles go to Jesus and say, hey, we're going to do the Passover, right? Now, I don't mean to belittle any of this, so please don't take what I'm saying as trying to be funny, because I'm not. But I like to think of it a little bit like Thanksgiving. Right? Once a year we come together, we have certain kind of foods, and we meet with family and friends. It's nothing like that, but in my head it kind of works to think about it like that. So basically the apostles come and they say, hey Jesus, are we going to do the Passover? And Jesus says, there's an upper room prepared for you. He basically gives them details. They go, they get this upper room, and they sit down to celebrate the Passover meal. Now, I am not a theologian. I just know what I read and what I study a little bit. My understanding is there's a pretty good process to the Passover meal. There's steps and procedures you go through. I think there's 15 different processes. And the unleavened bread, back in Exodus, is part of that. Also, wine is a part of it, some different things. So that's why we get the unleavened bread or the crackers, and that's why we get the grape juice or the fruit of the vine, basically. But here's where it gets interesting. This time, when Jesus takes the bread, instead of doing what traditionally he did in the Jewish Passover or the Feast of the Unleavened Bread, he breaks it, and he says, give thanks. By the way, I think that's important. He took the bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and because it was unleavened, he gave it to his disciples and said, take and eat, this is my body. What does that mean exactly? Why is the bread his body? What is he talking about when he broke it? By the way, he gave thanks first. Then I'll never forget the first time I read Matthew 26:59. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so they could put him to death. They did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Finally, 2 came forward and declared, this fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days. And the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, are you not going to answer? What is the testimony that these men are bringing against you? But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, I charge you under the oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God. Yes. It is as you say, Jesus replied. But I say to all of you, in in the future you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore their clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look now if you have heard this blasphemy. What do you think? He is worthy of death." They answered. Then they spit on his face. They struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, Christ, who hit you?" I'm not Christ. I'm not even worthy in some cases to say his name. But I will tell you right now, if this happened to me, I would start naming their names one by one. I would call them out and I would say, "I'll see you in heaven." But he didn't. The bread was broken to symbolize his body being sacrificed for us. And that's why we're going to take this cracker, this unleavened bread right now. We're going to physically break it. We're going to give thanks for what the Lord suffered for us. Lord, we come together this morning unworthy to be here, knowing that by simply taking of this bread, confessing our sins, that you will wash away all those sins, that you suffered for us, that you took things that many of us in this room could never endure, and you continued to take it so that we could be saved. For that we are unworthy, but we are truly grateful. We're grateful that you come and came and sacrificed for us. It's in your Son's name we pray. Jesus. Amen. Then he took a cup, gave thanks again, and offered it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." I can't even imagine being in this situation. If you're like me, and if you can avoid any type of bodily harm, you literally would flee from it. We would do anything in our possible power to not have to endure any physical harm in any way. We just avoid it. It's built into our DNA. We're human. Do not doubt for a minute that Jesus wasn't human, but he was also God at the same time. And there's a particular thing that just literally physically makes me hurt. There's a point in all of this where Jesus is flogged. Now, it's one simple verse in there, I'll never forget the preacher in my hometown when he started to talk about flogging, because in essence, it's a whip. It's got 3 long strands on it. On the end of the strands are bone or stone or something that would literally cut into the flesh. Now, believe it or not, the way I understand it, they actually flogged people before crucifixion because it would cause them to hemorrhage, and they'd actually die quicker on the cross. There was a Jewish rule that you could never flog anyone more than 40 times. So they always flogged them 39 lashes just to be safe. Now, while Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him the message. Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas to have Jesus executed. Which of the 2 do you want released to you? Asked the governor. Barabbas, they answered. What shall I do then with Jesus, who is called Christ? Pilate asked. They all answered. Crucify him. Why? What has he committed? Asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder. Crucify him. When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead of an upward were starting, he took water, washed his hands in front of the crowd. I am innocent of this man's blood, he said. It is your responsibility. All the people answered, let his blood be on us and on our children. Then he released Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the Praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand and knelt in front of him and mocked him. Hail, King of the Jews, they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe, put his own clothes on him, then they led him away to be crucified. Lord, we come together this morning. Take this fruit of the vine that represents the much blood that was shed by you on our part, that we may have a new covenant, Lord, that no longer are we held to an old covenant of law that requires us to sacrifice again and again, that your one sacrifice was for all of us to wash away our sins. It's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. I'll be honest with you. I hate reading those verses. It literally makes my stomach hurt. It makes me angry. It makes me frustrated. I'd much rather focus on the glory. What happened 3 days later? Yes, he suffered and died for our sins. True. 3 days later, he arose. And I'd much rather talk about that, but I think it's so important for us not to forget physically what these crackers and juice represent. That the suffering that happened for our sins that happened so that we would never have to sacrifice lambs or go to the most holy place to get our sins forgiven, that we actually can have those one-on-one relationships with God. So thank you for tolerating me this morning, and trust me, I don't get that serious in the middle age class, so your kids are safe with me. It's okay. But anyway, next we're going to basically take the collection up. And what I love about the collection personally is it actually delivers on what God asked us to at the end of Matthew. He said, go into the world and preach my gospel. The world needs to know that he came and he bled and he died for us. And so now we're going to take a collection to basically use that money to go out to the field, to preach his message, and to help people in need so that they don't have to suffer. Would you pray with me? Lord, your generosity overwhelms us. You've given us so much that we can never repay it. But please take the simple collection as an offering to say we want to do your will, that we want to go into the world and share your word. Take every cent of this offering and use it to do your will. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.